my first suspension car, and it won silver place in this month's Tamiya Mini 4-Wheel Drive Open Class races at Hobbytown. This is an MS chassis suspension car, and it's got the flexible suspension. So this thing, as you see here, it's got that little spring suspension system in it. And I admit, I did not build this suspension by myself. So I actually purchased this as a pre-made suspension. But my goal here is to try to learn from this suspension here and to make my own in the near future. So pretty cool. And what they did here was to knock out the battery compartment so that the battery stays in. And I think the battery ends up sinking down a little bit lower without the extra plastic here to hold the batteries in, but it also pares down a lot of the weight of the car too. So that decreases the weight, makes the car lighter, and thereby making the car go faster. Yes, if you have a really fast engine in it. So here, I had a mock dash engine in there and I tested it and it always flipped out of the track, my little ovular track at home. So I said, let's lower the speed of this thing a little bit, because I do have a 351 gear in there, and I might change that to a 371 in the near future, so we'll see what I can do with that. But what I did was I lowered it down to hyper dash. It was still a little too fast, and then I lowered it down, knocked it down to atomic tuned, and that was pretty good. And you know what? The track that we had at Hobbytown this month was much more of a technical track than others I've seen in the recent past. This track this month was about half the size of a normal Hobbytown track, so there were a lot more twists and turns, and basically it requires you to negotiate the track at a slower speed than the typical Hobbytown track. So having this dumbed down motor in it was probably the best idea, because I won silver place. Yeah, the silver medal at Hobbytown, my first race with this awesome car. So what does this car have on it that's different than some of my other open class vehicles? So we have here, you guys all know about Neon Vicky. This is like a mini legend in its own right? I love the fact that I built it using this this basically car catcher lantern damper kind of thing. So what I did here, instead of the front to back flipping, I reversed the flipping so that it goes from back to front. So there we go. Which is better? Do you think front to back or back to front was one better than the other? Each one has its own virtues. So here I want to make sure that even if this thing pops up, it should go down such that these weights, the screw and the weights, are perpendicular to the ground. So that's what you want to have happen ideally. Have the posts perpendicular to the ground. So there we go. So I have here double weights on each side because I found out that this extra weight actually really helps it. And when I do a drop test, it lands flat. It's totally flat. It doesn't bounce at all. Unlike Neon Vicky bounces a little bit and some of my other cars bounce a little bit, I was going to erase this one right here. You guys, if you've seen my videos before on this little Wolfie racer here, this thing, it's got partial sponge, partial maroon tires in the front, and super hard in the back with partial sponge in the back as well. So this, when it lands flat, the sponge absorbs onto the ground and it just hugs the track. And this does not have a flexible suspension because it's a VS chassis. And a lot of people like to knock on VS chassis, but this is a pretty sweet thing. This stayed on the track in my test runs and it did pretty well. So yeah, I'm very happy about this particular one. And the fact that it's got these front plastic rollers, they're kind of like fragile, more fragile than metal, but you know what, I like it. So it's pretty cool. I like the whole like blue kind of color toning, that blue purple color toning I have here on all of it. And here you'll see I actually got the posts to be near perpendicular to the ground because I used these little spacers, angled spacers, to direct the posts. The posts before were like at that angle. It was a severe angle, and then I got them more towards the perpendicular so that when it flips up, It lands down where the posts right there are perpendicular to the ground. And I have some pretty heavy weights on them. So yeah, this lands flat. It's got front weights, it's got side weights, it's got rear weights. And it doesn't have anything flexible about it, but it has, look at this. This is sweet. These are, ooh, very light. Oh, this is not moving. I think it kind of got bumped a bit. But yeah, this is, as you see here, oh yeah, tapered roller, and the top plastic rollers on metal, on the aluminum. And yeah, this is like pretty sweet. And I love the fact that I was able to get Wolfie right in here. Yes. So this one here, the car that I raced with, this bounces slightly, right? It doesn't flex as much as it could, but I'm going to work on perhaps a new AT bumper in the back such that it flexes more. So it does have a little bit of spring action going on here, so it does go back and forth, left and right, and it also twists a little bit too. But the springs aren't as loose as I would like them to be. So yeah, I've heard that in order to win races on technical courses, you want to have a stiff front, and the back basically just follows the front. So the back has to be more mobile than the front, so that these rollers hug along the edges, the walls of the track. So yeah, I really like the way I built this. Maybe I could have improved it by adding like those two-tone tires so that I can get like sponge and hard on the rear and low friction and sponge on the front. I would have liked that, but no, this, for what it is with just these regular super hard tires on the front and back, I think it did pretty well. And I think it did pretty well against a much more formidable car that had a much more powerful engine in it, and it was built for racing at extreme speeds around turns. So I think what I could do to improve this, of course, is to add that, or replace the 351 to 371 gear ratio in here, as well as maybe pump up the motor from Atomic Tune to Hyperdash, and I think that will make it faster, stronger around the turns. So pretty sweet, pretty cool. Yeah, so other races I entered, box stock, I was actually thinking about using my Mini Cooper car in there because it was staying on the track. It was pretty sweet. It's heavy enough to stay on the track. There were a lot of these crazy bumps along the way and digital curves and stuff, and this was taking them all with no problems, because I think it's because this car was heavy, it was doing well with it. But I decided to go with an FMA engine because the front weights, when this jumps, the weight of the motor brings the car back down very, very nicely. So here's the funny thing. On the races, I won the first heat, so I was able to get to position 1. I had an automatic bid for position 1 because my car was the fastest. But when it came time for the finals, I think my car was a little too fast and it just hopped right out of the track and I lost immediately. And all the other racers are going around the course, and guess who won? My son won, and my son won with an identical car to this. His is the black special edition of this very car, this mock frame car. So he's got gold, blue, and black instead of this white and red version of this car. So yeah, his car is pretty sweet, and he deserved to win that race. So he got like all these wonderful prizes and stuff. We moved on to the tune class next, and what I found was this car, it's the car that I use at AAA Hobbies. It's the car that the people at AAA Hobbies who win the races, they always win with this car. So I raced it with this car and I did pretty damn well again. And I think I was like second. Maybe I was the pole position again. I was like in the pole position again and winning the very beginning, and then suddenly my car hops out again during the finals. It's like, what is going on here? So I hopped out again and I was disqualified. So unfortunately, no tune class prizes for me. But yeah, I'm very glad that I was able to win something in the open class division with this car that I built for my very first suspension car. My next suspension car I'm going to be focusing on other aspects of the car, make it even better, and we'll see. I really like the fact that I used my own lantern design on here, which was made of a body catcher. So I'm all into shaping body catch material so that I can like use it for more flexible functions, because I really hate the stiffness of those carbon fiber popsicle sticks. I think, to me anyway, the flexible stuff, just look at this, I can easily pull this out and then I can take the batteries out with no issues. Whereas if I had the stiff carbon fiber popsicle sticks, it'd be a little harder to get at the battery compartment. So I like this flexible suspension a lot more. The only thing is about this body catcher material is sometimes it shifts from left to right, and so the weights might not land totally even when it comes back down. So sometimes you might tilt a little this way, sometimes it might tilt a little that way, instead of flat down parallel to the ground. But that's okay. So we're still working on the ultimate solution here. And the ultimate solution might be, like what I had on Mia and Vicky, a stiff popsicle stick right in the center, and maybe some sort of popsicle stick somewhere along the way, not across the length of this lantern, but somewhere along the way to make it more rigid. So yeah, so I like this car. It doesn't weigh that much. I think it's under 110 grams. And you know me, I'm all about cars that weigh as little as possible, that can go as fast as possible. So that's what I'm all about. So if you like this video, everybody, please slam the like button, subscribe to my channel, and you'll see more videos just like this one, I promise you. Until next time, everybody, see you, bye.